Today is August 6th, 2025. As a preliminary matter, this is Woody Knight, Chair of the Newbury Planning Board. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Peter Pecos.
Yes, sir.
Larry Murphy.
Here.
Scott Kinter.
Here.
Steve Mangian.
Aye, aye.
And Mary.
Yes.
Hi, Mary. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hope
Thank
all
you
is
very
well.
much, guys. Pardon me.
Yep. Glad to have you back, Mary. Thank you.
Thanks, Woody.
Town staff, Kristen Grubbs, Planning Director.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Good evening. August 6th, 2025, opening meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with the Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends the Governor's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A 20, until June 30th, 2027. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found at the town's website. You may join us by going to http://zoom.us and entering meeting ID number 832-7141-3056, passcode 108790, or by calling in at 1929-205-6099 US and entering meeting ID number and passcode when prompted. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and or telephone conference. The meeting is also being broadcast live through Local Access Channel 9 and on Zoom and at https://newburytv.wixsite.wixsite.com/TNCTV. And the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. For all attendees except board members and staff, please remember to mute your audio when you're not speaking. On Zoom, use the mute button. On your phone, use *6 to toggle mute and unmute. Meeting business ground rules. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chair, I will welcome applicants on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of board members, inviting each one by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during the public hearings after board members have spoken. I will see questions and comments through the Zoom raised hand function. Video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the image of the hand that appears. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. Telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone keypad. I will also allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raised hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address and then may ask a question or make a comment. Please do your best to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. I will afford the applicant or his or her representatives the opportunity to reply. I will then continue down the list of those in the raised hand column and again afford the applicant or representative an opportunity to speak. Should there be a written submittal of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. The applicant will be afforded the opportunity to speak if issues raised have not yet been addressed. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So there's a preamble. First thing up tonight is appearances submissions. We have 15 Central Street, owner Alice B. St. Hilaire, Michael Becker, applicant. Submission of a preliminary subdivision application. 15 Central Street, assessors map U11-0-53 for a one-lot subdivision. Mike Becker, you're here, correct?
am.
Very good. Would
Good
you like to
evening.
explain? Good evening. Would you like to explain your preliminary subdivision application, please?
Sure. Good evening to the board members and to the planner, Kristen Grubbs. Kristen, thanks for your help in getting me here. My name is Mike Becker. I'm here this evening for the subdivision of the property at 15 Central Street. It's a proposed preliminary 2-lot subdivision with one existing historic home to remain and one proposed duplex lot. I'm here virtually this evening with my surveyor, Paul Finocchio, and my engineer, Jack Sullivan. With that, I will turn it over to Paul to present.
Good evening, Paul Finocchio, PGF and Associates. Wonder if we could be able to share the screen so I can just show the drawings that we've submitted in.
Yes, I just made my co-host, but just a sec. I'll make you. So you can do that. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Oh, 1 second here. Okay, this property is located on the intersection of Central Street and Church Street. Abutting over to the right side of the property is the gas station, and further off to our right is Route 95. There's an existing single-family dwelling on the site here. Access to the driveway and parking is along this right side, and parking is back here. And there's the septic system over in here. There is a parking easement over the driveway for the abutting parcel at the gas station. This is a fairly wooded lot. There's a outcropping of ledge here, and then this flows back into there's a wetlands that was delineated up in the upper north corner of the property. This is our by right plan, which shows the typical roadway with the cul-de-sac circle, and we create 2 lots with having at least a minimum of 40,000 square feet and having the required frontage. What we're proposing is to put in a new road along the left side of the property with a turnaround area to service the rear lot. The roadway width is 32 feet with the pavement width at 22 feet with a reduced entranceway of around 16 feet. The reason being we've reduced the access in front is there's a utility pole located just to the left of the driveway. And there are 3 small street trees in the entranceway. They're about 6 inches in caliper. This is our roadway coming in. It has in a level area, then we pitch up to the high point, and then we have a slope pitching down to meet basically meet existing grade. And this will just access in for the back portion of the house, which will be located in this property here. So that's basically the gist of what we're proposing.
Very good. Kristen, this submission's in order. Correct? You have everything that you need for
Yep,
the submission?
yep. Just, a reminder to the board, this is a preliminary subdivision, so it sort of goes through a different process than a definitive subdivision submission. So Mr. Becker and I have been working through that, and yeah, so the board's review of this will not require a public hearing. It proceeds according to Chapter 117 preliminary plan, and then everything's been submitted, the fee's been paid, and the plans are submitted. We'll distribute those to other departmental staff, and then the board can review this at a future meeting, but it doesn't, as I mentioned, it's not a public hearing.
Very good. So, if the board is happy with the information that's been provided, I would entertain a motion to accept the preliminary subdivision application.
I'll move to accept the application, Woody.
Okay, in a second.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Pete. Roll call vote. Pete,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Mary, how do you feel?
Fine, fine, thank you.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
all set, and so we'll set, the next thing, is, if Kristen feels and the applicant feels that they'll be ready for August 20th. We'll set you on the agenda for August 20th for your formal presentation and discussion of the preliminary subdivision
Okay.
application. Very good.
All right.
So
you.
we'll see you guys on August 20th.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. You're welcome. All right, that brings us to the next item on the agenda, liaison and meeting reports. We have ZBA Larry.
Yeah, Woody, the ZBA is meeting on the 21st of the month. Right now, the only item on the agenda that I'm aware of that will be on the agenda is continued public hearing for 2 Plum Island Boulevard. That's the former Plum Island Grill property, if you recall. And the proposal now is for construction of 2 residential townhomes with parking underneath. So they've scaled back the proposed project significantly. And that's all I have for the ZBA.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Larry. Next is a Conservation Commission. We met last night. We had a bunch of RDAs. We have certificates of compliance. The only thing that really pertained to us was Sunset Club. The peer review's been done there and they closed the public hearing. So they're moving right along with that. So they're all set there. And otherwise, everything else on the agenda didn't really pertain to us. So as Larry just stated, the Plum Island Grill was there, but they weren't prepared to speak last night, so they have some work to do. All right, and they're waiting for ZBA. All right, next thing on liaison meeting reports is Kristen, MVPC. Do you have anything new from them?
I do not. We haven't met since June, or MVPC regional planners nor the commissioners have met since June, so they take a month off in the summer.
Very good. So we'll look forward to them getting back into gear here sometime soon. All right, and that brings us to, I have 7:14, so any second now, we can start our first public hearing for this evening. Yeah. I have 7:15. So we have a public hearing. First public hearing this evening is for 34 Central Street, level 2 site plan review. Application for Newbury Heights, a 44-unit multifamily development in the Newbury zoning bylaw section 97-4G, MBTA communities. Multifamily overlay district at 34 Central Street, assessors map R19-0-19. Owner Melody and Robert Pritchard. Applicant, Massachusetts Housing Opportunities Corporation, LLC. So we have Mike Ivers and Jerry Welch.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. It's Mark Bobrowski, counsel for the applicant. How are you?
Yep. Very good.
Thank you. Good evening. My office is in Concord, Massachusetts, for the record, and good evening to all members of the board. Tonight, we're going to go through a number of different items. I'm going to ask Christian Smith to leap on here momentarily to walk through the civil and stormwater issues, which I believe the peer review has pretty much put to bed, although there was a late wrinkle today with regard to perk tests and deep hole tests. So, Christian, why don't you come in and we'll go from there. I'll warn you, Mr. Chairman, that I also want to have a traffic discussion, and there are representatives here from VAI to help with that. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mark. You have the floor, Christian. And I believe you're muted.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I had to go shut my door. My dogs are going ballistic. Somebody must have come to the house. In any event, good afternoon or good evening, members of the board and members of the public. Again, Christian Smith, engineer with Beals Associates, representing the applicants on the project. Kristen, I guess I would defer to you. Would you like to put the plans up, or would you want me to do a screen share?
If you're comfortable with that, that's fine with me. I just made
Yep.
you co-host, so let me know if it
Okay,
doesn't work.
let me give it a shot here. All right. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So the first point, I really just wanted to go through changes that we've made based on 3 sets of peer reviews, one from the traffic consultant, excuse me, one from Martha that we had specific to architectural, and then again, just kind of trying to finalize our engineering review with Joe Sirwatka. Specific to one of the issues the board has brought up in the past, we did take a look at a reorientation of the intersection of Central Court. And what we found is we were actually able to improve the separation between the 2 roads by a slight modification to Central Court at the intersection with Central Street. And it actually all fits within the right-of-way. Of course, as I'm certain the board is aware, we would have to go through the selectmen to get approval to do such, should the board deem this a good idea. And from there, we'll go to the color site plan. We have gone through all of the buildings, and I know the architects put in a lot of work on this in coordination with us to make sure that everything was copacetic with regard to the elevation concerns that folks had at prior hearings. That caused us to actually eliminate one of the unit types. We are now down to 3 different types of units that show up on this plan. And essentially, the layout is very similar. The entrance drive has not changed significantly. Again, we've gone through all of Joe Sirwatka's comments and responded to those. And I'll remind the board that we have a closed drainage situation, which takes stormwater from along the roads and the driveways down to this location with a pair of catch basins, a manhole to collect from those 2 into a sediment forebay, and the initial bioretention pond being located down here near the intersection of Central Court and Central Street. We have finalized the actual proposed septic design, which is proposed to be the Enviro septic tubes. We've gone through some iterations with Joe Sirwatka specific to the conventional backup layout that is required under Title V, and you know, I would assume that that could be a condition in the event that the board got to a point where they were ready to close the public hearing either this evening or at a relatively soon future meeting. The remainder of the property is collected through a drainage system. Again, it's all closed drainage, so the pair of catch basins draining into a manhole, which provides some pre-treatment, but everything comes down to this final pair and the manhole, another manhole in between these 2 units. Again, a bioretention pond. And why we selected the bioretention ponds is twofold. Essentially, the bioretention media, which is 18 to 24 inches in depth, actually provides the treatment in these stormwater systems. And therefore, by the time the stormwater filters through those, is now at a point where it's at the existing ground surface, not existing ground surface, but the native ground surface. The water has already been treated and it's available for infiltration back into the groundwater matrix, which tends to mirror existing conditions and natural conditions a little better than some of the other alternatives for that. You can see we've implemented a few more 4-bedroom units. We do maintain 4 3-bedroom units. We have 4 single-bedroom units. All the remainder will be 2-bedroom units. And again, we have 4 that will be designated affordable. All 4 of those happen to be of the 2-bedroom nature. We can go through a little more elaborately. I think the board probably had time to take a peek at it. The landscaper has gone a great distance in providing screening up in this location and down here, where during the site walk, we noticed that there were some trees that had to be removed to get the excavator in to do additional test pits for the septic reserve area. We maintain 2 passive recreation parks, which will just essentially be 3,100 square foot grassed areas, which is fairly level that kids can play, whatever, have a picnic, whatever you choose. We relocated the dog park to facilitate the conventional reserve area over the proposed enviroseptic fields. The dog park will now be at this location right at the initial curve on the street. And again, we maintain 3 planting beds for community gardens. Should people want to use those to grow vegetables, flowers, whatever, all the residents will have opportunity to do that. We were able to speak on one point to the fire department, specific to a question of bringing our roadway in over their property, and we were informed that the town nor the fire department own that parcel. It is actually leased from a nonprofit company called Protection Fire Number 1, located out of Boston. So they don't even have the ability to authorize that. However, we did get the indication that they were not really in favor of such a thing, putting that roadway that close to their firehouse, where they barely have enough room to park an emergency vehicle out in front of it, into their entrance onto Central Street. One more point that I'll hit quickly. There was some conversation specific to pulling a roadway into Central Court through the wetlands. I know back in June, we went over the letter from Norse Environmental, which detailed, the fact that the 3 main criteria for DEP approval of, wetlands impacts and wetlands disturbance walk through the 3 criteria, the first of which being avoidance. So if you can avoid the resource area, you're supposed to do that. The second would be minimization, in other words, making it as small as possible, the impact of the wetlands, and then finally mitigation if there's no other alternatives. Based on that, it is Norse Environmental's position that a permit would not be allowed to be issued for that, because we've already demonstrated that we have an alternative that doesn't impact the resource area as depicted on the proposed plan you're looking at now. I think by and large, those are the highlights of the civil updates. Again, all of the sewer in the upper area of the project drains by gravity to the system of tanks here through the distribution boxes, and then down in this location right there, I believe we have a pump station, which will take the last few units wastewater up to these tanks and ultimately to the leach fields. I think I've covered everything I wanted to discuss specific to the changes that have taken place. I'm certain the architects could give you a little more elaboration on exactly what they've done specific to the buildings, et cetera. In addition to the landscape screening that is now proposed by our landscape architect, to address the comments that came out from Martha's review memo, and the concern for the height of these buildings as viewed from abutting neighbors. And with that, I will either turn it back to Mark or entertain questions, comments from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just backfill a little bit on some of the things Christian said, because I think bringing a legal perspective to some of his points will answer some questions and then make our job easier tonight. The first thing I'd like to address is the reconfiguration of the intersection. Christian, can you put that back up on the screen?
Absolutely.
And I think while he's doing that, I should point out that the traffic engineers concur that whether that intersection is reconfigured or not, they find it to be safe in its current form. So I think my clients deserve enormous credit for doing a good job here of straightening out that intersection. I've done this on a number of projects, one in Groton where there was a horrible fatality with an angled intersection, and for years now on Route 119, that's been a 90-degree intersection and there haven't been any other incidents. We have no problem doing it. We want to do it, but we'd like to put a condition in that we would, once the decision is filed and there's no appeal, the Board of Selectmen has 90 days, Select Board has 90 days to authorize us to get into that intersection to do the work. I don't want to be dragging it out over 180 days or a year before we can even lift a shovel to get in there. So I would simply ask that a condition be placed of 90 days for the Select Board to authorize this. I have spoken with Town Council Lisa Mead about this. I know that Jay Tallerman is there tonight. I don't know if he had a chance to talk to Lisa about our conversations, but she seemed amenable. I'll let her speak for herself or through Jay. The second point is that the recent developments today from Mr. Sawatka seeking more information about the design of the septic system with additional perks or deep holes. We've got to go through the Board of Health anyway. He's the Board of Health agent. We would like those to be conditions. We don't want to be going out and doing late in the season digging at this point in time. That can easily be handled by a condition as well. I think lastly, my other point would be that with regard to going through the wetlands, and Christian, you can go back to that other plan you had up. Going through the wetlands, I don't believe is allowed by the limited project exception under the state wetlands protection regulations. The limited project exception only applies to going through wetland areas to reach upland areas where there is no reasonable alternative. But your peer reviewer and my traffic engineer have both very clearly stated that the existing driveway proposed on the plan is a reasonable alternative and it doesn't involve any encroachment into wetlands. So with regard to the fire department not owning the property, coupled with the inapplicability of the limited project exception, we think that the road is safe as it is designed and that we should move on from this at this point in time. Thank you. I'm going to ask if there's any, Mr. Chairman, through you, if there's any questions from your members with regard to information provided just now by Chris and by me.
Okay, I'll start with board members on questions, but we also, is your traffic consultant Jeffrey and Dan here this evening?
I believe someone from VAI is here in Jeff's stead.
Yes, good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Daniel Lasivita. I'm a traffic engineer with Vanessa & Associates, and I am filling in for Jeff Dark tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, let's do questions and then we'll move on for a minute from there. And So I'll start with Pete. Pete, do you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, Woody, I would like to have all of the traffic conversation take place and then have questions, I think, if that's okay.
Okay, great. Let's do that then. Is Andrew Arsenal here?
I am, yes.
Okay. Andrew, would you like to talk on the town's peer review?
Yeah, I can give a quick, brief contextual overview of what we've done. May I share
Yes.
screen?
Kristen, you have that capability.
There you go. Should work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kristen, just a quick question. Oh, there we go. I was just going to say, do you want me to take down the plan? Thank you.
No worries. Sorry. Good evening. Thank you for your time, first and foremost. And for the record, Andrew Arsenault, business address 28 Lord Road in Marlborough, and I am representing MDM. We performed the peer review on behalf of the town, and tonight I'll just give a very brief contextual overview of the review process thus far. As mentioned, we reviewed the applicant's transportation impact assessment and the site plans from a transportation perspective. The documents, first and foremost, were prepared in conformance with all the local, statewide, and industry standards for the completion of these reports. In general, our comments were all very minor, and for the most part, they've been satisfactorily addressed. Just to run through them really quickly, we had the applicant's transportation team expand the study area, look at 2 additional intersections. They adjusted the seasonal adjustment factor to a more local factor. They extended the crash data analysis out to the most current available data, and they expanded the operational analysis as appropriate. All this was great. All this was fine. Everything satisfied our needs from that perspective. As mentioned earlier, the Central Street at Central Court, we suggested that they take a look at revising the intersection geometry. It's very much improved from what was there existing. And we also got some vehicle turning templates, some truck sweeps. That has since been satisfied as well to everyone's satisfaction and comfort. As mentioned, the last kind of outstanding comment from our second peer review letter was the driveway site distance issues. We did ask, as mentioned, to investigate relocations to the east. We wanted to also clarify and depict the vegetation and grading efforts that would be needed. The applicant team provided this graphic here, and apologize for the resolution on it. This exhibit is massively helpful in illustrating exactly what the limits of work are that need to be done for the vegetation along the south side of Central Street. But we just would like a little bit more detail in as far as the grading, looking immediately south of the street line, and what trees are actually being affected. If there are any large caliper ones that may or may not need to be replanted somewhere else. I'm not aware if the town has a tree ordinance specifically for that or not. We also just wanted to ensure that the elevation change, the driveway sits a little bit lower than Central Street, approaching from the east. We just wanted to make sure that clear line of sight was not pinched by any of the changes in grades off of the side of the roadway. So just a little bit more detail to help us firm up that picture was all we were looking for. Again, as mentioned, there was some discussion about providing a separate one-way entrance off of Central Street where the proposed driveway is coming in, and providing a one-way exit onto Central Court to meet into the improved intersection. That's been touched upon. We will continue to work with the board, with the applicant's team at the request of the board, but as mentioned, if they can clear up that site distance issue looking east, any one of those 3 items would satisfy us. As I said, I hope to be very brief, and I can be around for any available specific questions that the board may have.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.
No worries.
All right. Now I'll turn to the board. Peter, I'll start with Peter. Peter, do you have any questions?
Well, I do have questions. And Andrew, would you mind screen sharing again? And I'd like to, I really want to drill down on your last slide.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that coming in for everyone?
And actually, so let's go, I'm sorry, let's go to the previous slide and then come back to this. So the slide that had the depiction, right? So if I understand this correctly, and I just, help me if I speak incorrectly, the line of sight that you're projecting would be minimum line of sight. And I understand the word minimum and I understand the word maximum. So we're starting with a minimum standard at this point in time. So there's a 6-foot elevational change from the corner of that road to where the proposed driveway would be. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Approximately, yeah, correct.
And so that line of sight would have to be improved to address that grade, and all of the greenery along that aspect would have to be removed.
The vegetation would have to be either selectively trimmed or peeled back enough to keep the clear line of sight.
Right.
The grade change would be just to make sure that the hill doesn't sort of crest over the top and block the sight line itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because I can appreciate that hill as it is right now. And then there's maybe some shrubbery or some violation of the adjacent property. Would that come into play here too?
It looks like it does. It looks like it is touching on this sort of above the word remove.
Okay.
It does look like it is touching the brush that is in front of the abutter's house. Whether that is in the public right of way or not apparently it is from the review of the plan.
Okay.
But
line of sight going west is beautiful. It's an open line of sight, and appreciated of that. We're at a minimum standard line of sight. And if I remember reading the traffic report, the level of service was a level C, and I understand that as well. So if we could go to your next slide.
this slide.
Right. So I'll come at you completely from public safety, and that's where I'm at on this one. I understand that the numbers for the traffic study might suggest that this is acceptable. I have concerns with that. I have concerns with the speed and the volume that this road gets at different times of the day. And I think going through the exercise of having a one-way exit from this site kind of makes sense, because it avoids left turns or turns going west from this proposed site. And that's where I think the biggest opportunity for problems are to occur. You sit at an intersection, you look left, you see traffic, you look right, you see traffic, you look left. And as you start to go, you have to make sure that traffic is not coming down the hill at you. And it is a hill. And of course, speeds always increase going downhill. So that's a concern. That's why I feel very comfortable with exploring this. And I understand it's crossing of wetlands. And I understand that that's something we try to avoid. And I understand there's probably going to be associated cost with that. However, I think it's an alternative that in the public interest and public safety makes a lot of sense. And it slows the process of leaving from this site. So it automatically creates traffic mitigation, because there's going to be one stop if you were to leave from this proposed one-way exiting driveway, and then another stop. And from what I remember from the traffic study, the traffic study coming for Central Court has a queue of one car. So we're not going to be impeding Central Court from exiting the site with this proposal. And I've talked with the folks from conservation, and one of the people that I respect the most and has some of the best appreciation of wetlands indicated that this is not an impossible feat to approach. So local opinion differs very greatly than the opinion that has been described. So I'm looking at this strictly from a safety standpoint and something that makes sense. Entering the site is not going to be a problem, Exiting the site, I see as a problem. And when we did our last site walk, so there were some people from this team that were there, and the traffic was whipping along that road. And I talked with one of the team members, and the consensus was, yeah, this is actually really pretty busy here. And we have a feel for that. I think the people involved in this board have a feel for that as well. So I'm going to again encourage the applicant to go through this exercise to see what replication would look like, to run this up the flagpole, because I think I don't want this to be the rate limiting step. As our council has told us, we're here to help mold this project so it is successful. So if we're starting with a level of C, I don't like C's, I like B's and A's. Line of sight minimum, I don't like minimums, I like maximums. So let's find a medium between those. And I like traffic mitigation where we can slow things down and have things go one at a time. And I think that this gives a great opportunity for that. And we had a long discussion yesterday with our traffic consultants to see if this really made sense. And that's why it's here, because their feeling is this really does make sense. And that's what I'll say.
Okay,
May I address that, Mr. Chairman?
go ahead. Yes. Mark.
I can appreciate the gentleman's concerns, but from the perspective of the process, we've done our job and MDM has done their job, and they work for you. And their most recent document dated July 31st, 2025, specifically says that they sign off on the safety issues. So to make it safe is the obligation of my client. To make it the most safe it could possibly be is beyond the standard that applies here. I'll give you another example. If we meet Title V, we get to discharge our wastewater. We could put in a gold-plated septic system, which is not required by Title V, and I suppose that it would do a better job. But we're only required to do the job set forth in the regulations. And here, we've done that. The response is very clear that the site triangle that was provided erase the questions about site distance, assuming that there's cutting to be done. And I'll stand by my comment earlier that regardless of what the local conservation commission thinks, the state regulation is the regulation that applies here. It's a limited project exception, and we don't qualify for it. So I can imagine that there might be trouble at the regional office if they look at us cutting through a wetland that we didn't need to go through because it's perfectly safe to come out the way that the site plan has been designed. I'll let the representative from VAI speak to the safety issue, but my conversations with Jeff Dirk over the past 4 or 5 days ended up in a place where Jeff and Bob had spoken, and they had agreed that it's safe as designed.
I would take objection to comparing traffic to septic tanks.
I'm comparing
really
one
would.
expertise to another. That's all.
Well, no, sir. We're talking about potential crashes. We're talking about there's a bus stop. We're talking about children walking on a sidewalk. I have a very different opinion than you do, and that's okay. People can have different opinions, and that's the beauty of it. And if you say that it's legally impossible, I will turn to our town council, and they can tell us whether it is legally impossible, because that's where we will go. And if they say, yeah, it's legally impossible, then Peter will just sit down and be very quiet. But until town council says, hey, there's an option there, I have to pursue that because it makes sense to this individual, again, for public safety.
I would also like to address something
end our
here, Mark.
conversation simply by saying that you hired MDM to do a job. They did it correctly, and they've given you their advice.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Daniel, did you have something to say?
Yes. Just again, for the record, Daniel LaCivita with Vanassin Associates, the traffic consultants. I just want to address something that I have heard come up a couple of times just here tonight about the fact that we just meet the minimum required site distance. So the plan that we prepared that has been submitted and that has been shown tonight, that's a site triangle plan that depicts what is necessary to accommodate those minimum site distances, which is 305 feet and is based on a 40-mile-per-hour speed along Central Street. The measured speeds were found to be 37, 38 miles per hour. So just as a factor of safety, we did all of our calculations for 40. That aside, that site triangle plan was put together just to show what is required for the minimums. There can be and will be, as a part of the project, further trimming such that we exceed those minimums. So that was just something I wanted to make clear and set the record straight on. With the trimming and removal of trees and vegetation, we will exceed the required minimums. So if anyone has any questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer. But as it relates to the safety of the proposed access, we believe that based on the sight lines and traffic operations, the driveway where proposed will provide safe access to the project site. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Pete, do you have anything else? And I will circle back to the board. So you're good for a minute? Larry, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I just, I certainly, and I think we all do agree about the modifications to the Central Court intersection. It's a minimum required for safety. Let me ask you something that's been nagging at me. What is the distance between the center line of Central Court and the center line of the proposed driveway as it's laid out right now? Can someone tell me that?
The existing Central Court or
Yeah.
with the realignment?
Yeah, because if I understand what I'm reading here, you guys have it at 125 feet and MDM has it at 80 feet. Am I misinterpreting something here?
I don't want to speak for MDM, but what was in our response letter was the existing center line to center line is 125 feet. With the relocation to the west, that goes up to, I believe, was 180 feet. So we gain 55 feet plus or minus.
Right. That's what I understood. I just thought I saw something different from MDM, and I'll leave it to Andrew if he wants to respond.
So I believe the 80 feet was curb to curb,
Okay.
near side to near side.
Thank you. You know, and I certainly, I mean, from the very beginning, I've had a concern about that sight line looking east. And I do appreciate Pete's comments. I think what I'm hearing is it's good enough, what you guys are proposing. And what I hear from Pete is we can do better. And I think that's something worth exploring, trying to do better. And I think we're just confining our comments now to traffic. What do you?
Yes, yes, for now.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to add at this point.
Okay, and if anything comes up, I'm gonna circle back, Larry. Scott, do you have any comments or questions?
Pretty much the same comment that I think if listening to Pete, we were at the site walk. We're looking at the traffic. It is a dangerous intersection, and Mark, listening to Mark, and Mark has an incredible reputation. Speaks to the facts. He's typically always right from my experience, but that doesn't mean that we can't be looking at this potentially a bit beyond the minimum standard, especially when there's what is the minimum safety standard from keeping anyone, a child, at the intersection, at the bus stop, from racing across the street and getting hit by a car. I mean, those are the what ifs. But I'm been listening to Larry, if we could just pursue it maybe a bit more, Mark and applicant. And potentially get to a middle ground here that might be potentially to a better safety place. That would be, I think the entire board would very much appreciate that. And I think it's a good project. It's a bit too minimum standard to me or for me. That's all I have. Woody.
All right, thank you. And if anything else comes up, please just speak up and I will circle back. Steve, do you have any comments or questions?
Sure. During the site walk that the board did, I didn't make it all around the back 40, as I'll call it, and I spent some time by the proposed entranceway, just taking in the traffic. So my experience becomes very anecdotal, but it really did seem that the speed of traffic is one that does raise some concerns. And I think to Pete's point that if we, just try and take a look at the alternative of crossing the wetland, that might be a wise thing to do, since a minimum standard isn't exactly what we want in this situation, particularly with the likelihood of lots of kids and whatever being in the area, and that raises a safety concern for children who may not be as careful as we'd like them to be. But it's a good project, but I think we want to be as careful as we can about the safety issues. Certainly, it seems like reconfiguring Central Court will also address some of the concerns. And if we can tie into that with a wetlands crossing, that would be a double winner. That's
Okay,
it.
thank you, Steve. And I'll circle back if you have any other questions, so just speak up. I'd like to say a few things. I read the whole traffic report. I went through it thoroughly. My interpretation of the traffic report is the line of sight where the proposed driveway exit is now is failing. It's a failing score. It meets minimal line of sight by less than the length of my truck. When you remove vegetation, remove trees, whether they're in the town right away or on the Pritchard property. And I have a problem with that, because when we were going through and to comply with the MBTA bylaws, a lot of minds and a lot of people were involved in that, and there was a lot of thought put into it. And one of the big things was the buffer zones in the front and setbacks in the front and on the sides and in the back. And we've already disturbed the 3 homes in the back with the excavator going in to dig test pits. And I know there's a proposal for landscaping to be for trees that will provide screening for that, but it's already been disturbed. And to go and disturb the buffer in the front for a line of sight to just meet minimal standards is a problem to me. I see a real problem with exiting in the driveway where you're proposing now. And I don't want to see the buffer disturbed, the screening disturbed for the neighboring house, or for it needs to remain there, because it's not part of, it was laid out in the MBTA and the way we set it up so that the screening would stay and there were setbacks set in place. So I agree with a lot of Peter's comments on the one-way exit. It slows things down. You're not in a rush. You're more comfortable coming out of Central Court, which is an existing intersection. And when it's reconfigured, you won't be at an angle anymore. You'll be at more of a 90-degree angle with Central Street, and it will be much safer exiting Central Court. So if you stop out a one-way, like on the map that Andrew had, and then you stop at Central Court, it will be just like it is today. And be a lot safer in my mind. I see the line of sight now as failing, and by regrading and removing large trees and entering that front buffer along Central Street is a problem to me. So I'll leave that at that for now. And also, with regards to crossing the wetland for a one-way exit, the wetland is there, and there's a mystery culvert pipe that comes out there. We don't know where that water comes from. We don't know. There needs to be more investigation as to where that culvert goes and what it's tied to and where that water is coming from. I believe it's an outlet pipe that drains into that wetland from somewhere else. And to reconfigure all that and have it so it works out right and work with peer review, then it would also possibly improve the neighboring yard that already floods now because of possibly this mystery culvert pipe. And I don't see it as it may be an expense, as Peter said, and as it's been said, but I don't see it as a problem to cross that wetland on that corner to get off the property in the name of safety, because it would be a shame to have a problem there. So I'll leave it at that for now. And I will go back to, does anyone have any replies to anything that's been stated?
Woody, I actually have something.
Go ahead, Pete.
Exiting from the site at night, there's going to create head glare from cars, and as we know, everybody's got LED headlamps now. And I don't know about you, but I'm old, okay? And so LED lights at night are killers to my eyes. And so where those lights are going to be shining as they're exiting the property is something I think that you should give consideration to. That's one thing. The second thing is, when I was reading the traffic study, because I had nothing to do one day, I went down the road, right? And so if we start with coming off 95, coming southbound on 95, turn left onto Central, it's an F. State says it's an F. Fruit Street's the next intersection. That's a level of service. That's a D. And so now we're going to come in with a marginal C. Please try to hear what I'm saying. It's not to be difficult. It's trying to improve a situation that I'm concerned is going to get very complex. And so I don't understand resistance. I understand having conversation. I understand running the numbers, doing the feasibility. Then you say, coming back and saying no, and then I'll wait for our town council to tell us, Pete, you're going up the wrong pole, or you shouldn't be. But to give an abrupt no it's not a good message. Scott said it. This is a nice project. We want this to succeed. This board selected this parcel, and we went through a 2-year process so we could have it an MBTA community. So our vision was to make this happen. All we're trying to do is make sure it's as safe as possible. It's very simple. It's not a hard ask.
Very well said. Any other comments from anyone on the board at this time? Hearing none. Is there a response to anything that's been said by anyone?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to chime in very briefly on this issue. One of the comments that we did get from the fire department as well, specific to them not being in favor, and of course that's all that is an opinion, of one way in, one way out accesses to this property, is that in the event of an emergency within the development, the fire department, ambulance, whatever the emergency response vehicle is that's going to respond to that, they are going to take whatever the fastest route to get there is. So for one example, a tree's across the exit lane or the exit entrance, and they have to go the wrong way down the out road. That his concern was that can really be problematic if, God forbid, an oncoming vehicle going the correct way down that exit road did not see the truck. There's a head-on collision. Obviously not a good scenario. I mean, you know, it's obviously something that that the proponents of the project are not in favor of, but you know, these numbers that are AASHTO standard. And of course, Daniel can expound on that, and obviously Andrew could have additional comment on that as well. You know, they are minimums in that's what AASHTO standard is, to provide safe sight distance for the vehicles to enter and exit the any given road. That's so the point is, everybody is throwing around this minimum distance. It's this safe distance that's prescribed by AASHTO, which governs traffic design and traffic reports and evaluations across the country. And of course, I'll let Andrew or Daniel speak to that further.
There's no doubt that there's safe distances. And there's one aspect of flat terrain, and there's another aspect to a hilled terrain. And I think coming down a hill is very different than traveling on a flat surface. And we haven't had that conversation. And that conversation should be part of this process. I mean, it's a 30-degree angle hill. I mean, you know, it's a turn and a hill, and it's a 6-foot drop. So what happens when you go downhill? You have to tap your brakes, right? Or you're going to speed as you're going to the bottom of that hill. And where the driveway is proposed is the bottom of the hill. So unless you want to put a flashing light, you know, somewhere up above saying, slow down, slow down, slow down, I think you need to think of other things. And this is common sense stuff, guys, you know? And, you know, and I don't mean to get in an argument with the applicant's counsel. You know, we had a meeting with the traffic consultants yesterday, and they asked us, you know, should they, you know, run this by the traffic consultants for the applicant? And we said, yes, please do, because we want to have a positive, engaging conversation. We didn't want to run into a stone wall. We didn't. We tried to be as open and as transparent as possible. So maybe you could, you know, yesterday would have been a day to say, hey, should we really be looking at this? Because they might be coming at us really strongly with that. That's where we're at.
May I respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
The process requires us to be safe. Both your expert witness, MDM, and our expert witness, VAI, concur that the project is safe as designed. That's the standard. Safer is not the standard. Safer is an aspiration, but it's safe enough if we meet the standard. And that's ultimately the way a reviewing court will look at this. It doesn't have to be the safest possible project. It only has to meet the standard for safe. And I can tell you right now, having not spoken with Bob directly, but having Jeff spoken with Bob, and then Jeff relating their conversation back to me, that Bob Michaud thinks that the project is safe. And I think Andrew pretty much said the same thing tonight. So that's where we're at.
Mr. Chairman, can I chime in here? Not that Jay Tallerman, Town Council, not that I want to derail this by having arguments amongst learned counsel. I certainly respect Mark's experience, although I kind of disagree with Scott a little bit that where he says that Mark's never wrong. Be that as it may, I'm going to take a slightly different.
I would disagree with that too. So.
Yeah. I'm going to take a slightly different view on this, and it's closer to what Peter was saying. I don't think anyone's made a decision here tonight. I think this is part of a process, and I think it's a fair area of inquiry to explore this issue if that's what the board wants to do. This is a public hearing, and this is what we do at it. So that's issue number one with respect to this access. Second, the fact that it may be a limited project because there's a significant amount of wetlands there, that's not binary. It's not a either go, no go. The Conservation Commission has the authority to grant permits based upon a set of criteria that are baked into the wetland regulations with respect to limited projects. I don't know what they would do, but I think we should probably have that inquiry. We can also impose a condition that would suggest try it, and if it doesn't work out, then maybe we revert. So all those things are still out there and possible, and I just don't think we've worked them through, which is, I think, exactly what Peter is saying here. I'm going to strongly disagree with Mark on the fact that you only have to meet a safe standard. It is certainly true that this is not a special permit. This is site plan review, but you are not confined to doing the minimal amount of work to approve a project under site plan review. This is not a 40B project. You still have a significant amount of discretion under site plan review. I don't think you can deny the project under these circumstances, but you have the authority to condition it. And the standard of review in terms of conditioning it under site plan review is a little more deferential than Mark would suggest it is. Now, I agree that if it was the poison pill to an otherwise by right project, that could be problematic. But there's been no such showing there. It would certainly be more expensive to install a second roadway there, no question. And that's an important factor for everyone to think about here. I just don't think our work is done. I don't think Peter is suggesting that this is the line in the sand that he's going to draw. It may be ultimately, but it may not be. So I think it's important to understand kind of where we are legally here. And the fact that I have a slight difference of opinion from Mark on what you are allowed to do under site plan review. I think you have more discretion than I think Mark is suggesting you have. We're all cognizant of the fact that this is by right multifamily zoning, no question about it. And I think we would be unwise to arbitrarily impose conditions or hurdles that would frustrate the project into oblivion. I don't think that's what anyone's trying to do, though. So I think that going through a process and understanding what this would take to do that, if that's what the board wants to do, is fine. So let me respond to two other issues that have come up here. And one is with the trimming of the vegetation. My understanding is that every single roadway in town except Route 113 is a scenic road. If there are any trees of sizable nature within a right-of-way, then that's going to require scenic road review by the planning board as well as review by the tree warden. So that process may or may not be out there, but I think someone suggested or asked a question, I think it might have even been Andy, we don't know what's out there. We haven't seen an inventory of trees within the right of way. We don't know. It's probably worth doing for the applicant as well. Maybe if they need a scenic road permit from this board, we get that process started so that we're all doing things at the same time and bring in the tree warden. Maybe that's a good idea, but I think that's still out there. The select board process in terms of 90 days to approve a license or a road opening permit or whatever it may be to do that road reorientation. In concept, fine. Lisa and I spoke about it. I'm not sure I would be so draconian in the requirements under the permit. I'm sensitive to the fact that the applicant can't wait around forever for that. But I think there's a way to kind of work that. I think it would be great to hear from the select board within this process as to whether or not they're amenable. My guess is that they would be, but I think it would be great to hear that or see that be put on paper that they are. So if they have any concerns immediately in terms of timing or what else it may be tweaks to that design, then they could speak and we could bake that into the conditions of this approval. Otherwise, I think the board's doing a great job here. I think the applicant's providing a lot of helpful information tonight, and we look forward to helping you out as you continue the public hearing.
Thank you, Jay. So the applicants have heard how we feel on the traffic. A lot's been said. And we'll have to digest some of it. I have a, is there any other board members that have anything to say about traffic at this time? Okay. We have, I was wondering if we could get a little more detail on the affordable units.
I'm certain we can provide more detail on that, Mr. Chairman. What kind of detail are you looking for?
Well, we just heard that 4 are proposed and
Yeah.
we haven't heard much else about it. So,
Well, I mean, that's essentially it. I believe that they have to go by the, you know, at the current time HUD definition of affordable. And that will carry with those units, no matter how many times they are sold over the course of time. And as I understand it, from both my clients, the proponents of the project, as well as the regulations, those will be finished just the same as all the other units in the property, in the project. You know, they will not have, say, where they've got very nice cabinets or counters. I mean, pick an amenity in the unit next door. These will not be brought down to builder grade because that is, as I understand it, is not allowed. If there's more specifics that you're looking for in general, I would defer to either Mike Ivis or Jerry Welch, unless Mark, you have some additional info on that.
Yeah, I do. They will be LIP units only, which means that the paperwork will be complete to make them affordable in perpetuity or as long as the project remains in existence on the ground. So essentially that means that the pricing of the units will follow EOHLC and HUD standards. And that's, you know, that's how you secure the affordability of units that are not in a 40B, LIP units only. As far as which units, we're perfectly happy to designate them as one of the conditions in the final plan. Work with the board and perhaps you have ideas as well as to where these units ought to be located. And then lastly, it's common that we would help you facilitate the paperwork with EOHLC, and we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, and in actuality, Mr. Chairman, the project proponents have gone through and determined the units that they are proposing for affordable. And if I can share screen again, Kristen.
It looks like you should still be able to.
I should still be able to? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know if this comes up. Okay, so I'll I'll zoom in here a little bit. Well, that is, I think I will. There we go. So we added a table to the plans, and so it's units 22, 52, 73, and 93. Those are the ones proposed to be designated as affordable, and I can show you those. 22 is in this location. 93 is in this location. Then we have 73, which would be this building and unit right there. And then I've just got to scroll over to 5 here. And 53 is right there. So kind of spread them out throughout the project. Well, that's the proposal at this point. And you know, obviously I don't think anyone would take exception if the board thought that other units should be looked at as opposed to the ones that have been selected.
okay, thank you, Christian.
Sure.
I also have one other thing. And I mentioned it in the past, and I'm going to mention it again. If you guys plan to stick to the name of this project as Newbury Heights, I kind of have a strong feeling for that as a negative one. Newbury is made up of Plum Island and Byfield and then Old Town, Newbury. And Byfield, they call it the Village of Byfield, also has its own zip code, and they have for a long time. And I think that's partially because of Governor Dummer. But neither here nor there. For the sake of deliveries, safety response, I mean, I understand the Byfield Fire Department will know where Newbury Heights is, but I feel that if the name is Newbury Heights, I feel it should be changed to Byfield Heights. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, but I think being in Byfield, it should be named Byfield Heights. And I welcome any comments from board members.
So Woody, I think the applicant had some other names that they were kicking around. I don't know if they've honed in on those or if they're comfortable with the concept of Byfield Heights.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
I'd like to speak on that.
Let's just speak to that. Yes. Who is this?
Mike Ivis, one of the.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris and I have had conversations off and on for a couple of months. We have absolutely no problem renaming the site. Actually, we got some historical background from the current owners, the Pritchetts. Interesting, the wife family goes back to the founding of Byfield. Her family is the founder of Rowley, Mass. Was when Byfield was part of Rowley. It's her family, so we're open to it. We have no. It's just it was just the changing the plans, doing everything in the while we're doing this now. It was sort of we're open to it. We'll do it. It's not a problem. It's just because then all the plans, everything has to be changed. We would love to have conversations about a name that everybody would support.
Okay, and come up with your thoughts, and we'll discuss that next continued public hearing.
Yeah. No problem.
Thank you. I'd like to put that on your list. All right. That being said, before we go to public comment, Kristen, do we have any written public comments? Have they more been submitted?
There was one letter submitted to the planning board that was discussing the town's affordable housing initiatives, and there were some comments related to this project. So I have put that on the website with the other public comments. It was received July 10th from 3 residents, Pam Wool, Carrie Boyd, and Dan Valiente. So I don't know if any of them are on the call tonight, but I could share it with the board. You've already received it, but I'm happy to read it if that's helpful, or else just reference it for people.
Okay. If no other planning board members have any questions at the time, I'll go to a public comment.
Actually, Woody, I do have one question.
Yes, go right ahead, Larry.
I may. And this, I guess, would be directed to legal counsel. Is there any issue with designating only 2-bedroom units as affordable?
I'd have to think about that a little bit and cross-reference it with respect to your bylaw. Generally not, because under 40B, under other programs, limiting it to 2 bedrooms is an issue. Here, where it's units only, and they're going to be designated units, and maybe Mark has an answer for this already, but I'm not sure it really matters where we're getting these approved for the subsidizing housing inventory, essentially one at a time. I think that the preference by the Commonwealth, if there's going to be affordable units, is that we make room for some families, but that's generally a 40B question and not so much a question under the bylaw as I understand it here. I don't know if Mark has a similar feeling on that.
Thanks, Jay. I don't think that proportionality as you would required in a 40B. You know, if you have ones, twos, and threes, then depending on the proportion of ones, twos, and threes, you would assign affordable units proportionally. I don't think that rule applies here. I think two-bedroom, I think for our purposes, it makes sense since the majority of the bedrooms are two bedrooms and since they're probably the most desirable for families starting out or seniors aging in place. It makes sense to just focus our energy there. But if you have a different idea, you know, then happy to listen.
Thank you.
Woody, I have one question that just popped to my head that
go
Mark just triggered. Are any of these units going to be ADU handicapped accessible units? Is there a design plan for one or two of the units to be that way? To meet our, ADA, guidelines? Mike? Mike, you're muted. Let me unmute you, Mike. You unmute?
Hello, yeah. Peter, I don't know the answer to that. I defer to Jerry, who works with the architect designing the units.
I know we would encourage that because, as Mark indicated, if we're looking to try to have people aging in place, as some of us get older, we do have other needs. And so if we have, ramp design or one or two units that have that type of philosophy within them, I think that'll also be helpful to our community. Thanks.
Okay.
I think to some extent it depends on the buyer too. I mean, I've worked on projects where the units were deemed visitable, which is not the same thing as ADA compliant, but it is wider doorways and that kind of lower rises, that kind of thing. But if somebody is with a disability buys one of the units, and I think there probably is a negotiation during the term of the purchase and sale agreement to make it more appropriate.
It's not uncommon, Peter, to have some discussion at this stage that a certain number of the units will be built as what we would call adaptable, so that the design, the architecture, the bones of it would be, even if it's not handicap accessible as designed, but that it be ready to be converted to that in the event of a sale, someone needs it, or if after they buy it, they need to move some things around, certain, again, as Mark suggested, certain width doors, the ability to handle grab rails where necessary, things like that. So that's not uncommon to have that discussion at this point, that a certain number of the units be constructed like that. There's actual requirements for that in different types of housing, where if it's like apartment style or garden style, there are actual requirements for things like that, less so in townhouse style development. But it's certainly a worthy question. I'm sure it doesn't really cost them much to make a unit adaptable. So I think it's a good discussion point to have.
I think we should keep it alive then in our conversation. Thanks, Jay.
Okay, anyone else from the planning board have any questions or comments right now? Then with Kristen, with your assistance, do we have any raised hands from the public?
Right now, no, but maybe just give people a minute since we're transitioning.
If anyone from the public would like to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand or speak up if you're having trouble raising your hand.
Woody, just while we're waiting, just to make sure,
Go right ahead.
like a good classroom. I just did pull up the letter I referenced earlier, and I thought I might, because none of the authors of the letter are on the call tonight, I just thought, if it's okay, I'll read one component of it related to this project.
Yep, go right ahead.
So we are 3 Newbury residents among a number who are deeply concerned about the lack of housing, particularly affordable units.
We
in
have,
our town. Sorry, I was getting echo. We were encouraged by the strong support of 3A multifamily housing initiative by a majority of Newbury residents, and we're pleased to see the first 3A project working its way to execution through a comprehensive and thoughtful process. However, we would like to see more than 4 affordable units in that development. While we appreciate the challenges the site provides and the costs involved, it is our hope that the planning board may consider encouraging the developer to add at least 1 additional affordable unit, or alternatively, to make one of the 4 units more deeply affordable, e.g. 60% area median income. And then it goes on to address other strategies the board and the town could take related to encouraging more truly affordable dwelling units in the town. So that was from Pam Wool, Carrie Boyd, and Dan Valiente.
thank you, Kristen. And I don't have the ability. Do we have no raised hands at this time? Okay.
No. Oh, wait, sorry. Do see someone, Chris.
Hi, Chris Murphy, 9 Parker River Drive. I'm
Okay, Chris.
looking, hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the new set of drawings, and I'm just noticing they added a set of trees behind the 5 block, and that block is directly behind my house. Now, I wasn't fortunate enough to see the 100-foot setbacks as some of the other abutters, and I'm one of the 2 or 3 closest houses to the new development. So, you know, we've been here over 10 years, and up until now, backyard was trees, wildlife, and you know, it seems all that's going away. And I had made a comment last time about the landscape of our backyard has already gone through quite a bit of change. You know, it looks much more like a construction site now. And when I look at these trees, I assume that's to address maybe the fact that they've already sort of changed the landscape within the setbacks. But the trees that I'm looking at, 6 to 8 foot spruce. I mean, I'm over 6 feet tall, and spruce grow incredibly slow. If they are to put trees there, which I would like to do, again, I'm going to be staring at these for the remainder of my time here. I would request something more to the tune of like a 10-foot green giant, something that's going to grow, especially considering the elevation of the units is higher than the elevation of my own house. From my standpoint in the back of my property, if I'm looking over the top of those trees, they're not even going to be touching, you know, the bottom line of those houses. So at that height, I'm deeming them basically useless. So that's just something that I wanted to throw out as a suggestion / request.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Feel free to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Christian Smith. The trees that the landscape architect has proposed down there are indeed white spruce, but they are proposed planted at 8 to 9 feet in height at the time of planting. And Mr. Murphy, I'm absolutely happy to talk with her about a species that would provide additional screening and provide a faster growing species than that, and see what she comes up with. She's very good at what she does.
I appreciate it. Yeah, the drawing says 6 to 8 foot.
And now that that's been brought up too, I also think that maybe also tweak the plan a little bit and have some screenage a little further up the hill to address some of the height problems as opposed to just a row right at the property line. Maybe you can work with your landscape architect to come up with something a little more elaborate that would provide some screening as these things are 8 foot tall and as they grow, so they'll.
Yeah, in
really-
other words, Mr. Chairman, perhaps another staggered row upslope. Yep.
Yes.
I just encourage anyone to stand in our backyard and see what it looks like. We just did over a $500,000 renovation, and it's very disappointing that this is now our backyard. And we're just hoping that the developer, the builder, will work with us. We're not trying to be difficult, but I encourage anyone to stand in our backyard and now see what we get to look at every day. It's pretty disheartening.
I've seen it with my own eyes, and they did disturb the screening there, and there's gonna be things going on there, and a little more work on some screening that would make the neighbors happy, and working with the neighbors would be appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We do appreciate that comment. That was our original comment when we did our first site walk and the second site walk. And during that second site walk, there was some discussion about even trying to create some berming once they start looking at how their patio is going to be designed. So maybe they can create a little bit of an artificial buffer. So visually, that'll be enhanced. So we are very sensitive to the concerns of those 3 homes.
Okay, does anyone have anything else?
Thank you.
Kristen, do you have anything else at this time?
No, and I don't see any hands.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I would just say before I ask the planning board for motion to continue this hearing to September 3rd, I would just like to say a lot's been discussed tonight. A lot of opinions have been expressed, and I encourage the applicant to look into some of the things that have been said this evening. I'd entertain a motion to continue this hearing to September 3rd at 7:15 PM.
I move to continue the hearing until September 3rd at 7:15 PM via Zoom.
Thank you, Larry. Second?
Second,
Thank you, Steve. Roll call vote. Pete?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Steve?
yes.
Scott? And you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you on September 3rd at 7:15.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Moving
Mr.
on.
Chairman and members of the board.
Yep. Have a
Appreciate
good
your
night.
time.
Yep. Moving on with the agenda. We have a second public hearing this evening for the Cottages Commercial LLC for the level 2 site review, plan review, excuse me, application for 2 and 8 Old Point Road, assessors map U02-0-153A for as-built constructed changes to the approved site plan of record in a proposed new 40 by 40 pavilion structure. Do we have Vince or Steve Sawyer here?
Steve Sawyer is here.
Okay.
On behalf of Vince. Vince actually could not make it. He's out of the country.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Steve.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to latest updates and
Yeah,
show us
sure.
the revised renderings?
Yeah, sure.
We'll start there.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so we provided
Thank you.
renderings basically with a Photoshop, basically using a actual image with the pavilion photoshopped over the image. I think hopefully that's more in keeping of what the board was looking for. So this is as you're driving down Plum Island Turnpike, and with the pavilion here, sign in front of it. You can see the restaurant back here. Or hold a second. I'm sorry, that's the house. The restaurant is to the left. You have that's the you can see the merch shack. there. You can see the homes beyond as you ride down Plum Island Turnpike. And then actually, so if you're looking straight at it if you're looking at it from across the street at the former Plum Island Grill location, you can see the sign. And now you can see the restaurant looking through underneath to the overhead door here for the restaurant, interior portion of the restaurant, the planting in front with the pavilion in front. And then this is actually looking at it further away. You can see the pavilion here. It's really not very noticeable. You can see it will blends in with the structures as you drive onto the island. So really it's de minimis as far as its impact visually. I have a feeling what's going to happen over to the right will be much more impactful as far as the sight lines coming down Plum Island Boulevard onto the island, and no one will even notice the pavilion because of that structure to the right. So I'm hoping that these are helpful for the board. This is actually leaving. This really is, unfortunately, it's from the opposite side of the street. If you are on the right side of the road driving out, it would be more shielded from the existing buildings. So it really would be very, you'd just be seeing this edge of the building. As you can see, the gable end of the roof is shown here, closed in. So I'll go back to probably the most important one here. So you can see the gable end closed in here. So that was the update. I'm hoping it's more in keeping for what the planning board was looking for as far as detail of what the pavilion is, the impact of the pavilion on the corner of the property there. Also, I updated during the site walk, there was some discussion there. One thing we talked about was we relocated the bike rack over to this area here. We're going to maintain the location of the dumpsters here and really relocate. There was room to relocate one parking spot to this location here. So we maintain the existing parking count, maintain the dumpsters at this location versus here, which made operations of the dumpster removal and emptying much easier and efficient. So that's basically it as far as the updates, and be looking for input from the board.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Yep.
I'll start with the board. Pete, do you have any questions?
Steve, thank you. That is perfect as to what was provided. It really gives a
Great.
great appreciation of what this will look like. And I think you're right. As time goes along, this will probably blend in. It's a large building, but I think as time goes along, it will fit. So thank you very much for doing that exercise.
Thank you.
Oh, so Pete, Larry, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
None here.
All right, and Steve, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, a couple. I mean, the renderings certainly help quite a bit, and I appreciate that. I'm just trying to judge the height of the roof on the pavilion and how that compares to the sign.
Yeah. Okay. The sign, I think, was measured at 20. The roof is 22. It looks fairly similar in height, but that's because the pavilion set back. So, in perspective, as you move away, things appear smaller. So here it appears that it appears at roughly the same height, but the pavilion roof, the peak of it is slightly higher than the sign.
Hey,
Right.
Steve, it'd be helpful if you could just go back to that shot from Plum Island Grill.
Yeah. There you go here. So the same thing. This is much further forward. So it gives of course your Sunset Club sign, you'd be looking up at it. So it looks higher than the pavilion roof. And that's why it appears that this roof is lower than the Sunset Club because it's set 20 or 30 feet back from the sign.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I picture it more when I'm driving off the island and I'm looking down at the sign as I'm leaving.
Okay. Yeah. So. Wait.
Foot or two, maybe taller than the sign.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So yeah, here you go. So yeah, here we're in front of it. So of course it's going to look much taller than the sign because we're forward of that sign.
mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, but I find myself thinking that as I'm leaving the island, I'm looking at the structure in the gable and how I don't think that's going to get out of sight and out of mind as time goes by. Rather, it is something that blocks the view, in my mind, of the great expanse across the marsh. And in that sense, I'd much prefer to see the gables open so you could see through them.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking about, Steve.
well, I don't think so. Actually, when you're looking at it in this, you're going to see the underside of the roof here. So you might get a little sliver here. And also you have the vegetation here. If you're, what happens if you're driving out, unfortunately, this is from across the street. It would have been better to have the perspective from the car in the travel lane as you're leaving. Because it would be sort of, this pavilion would be more tucked in behind this house at the corner of McLeod. So unfortunately, this is probably not an accurate perspective of the pavilion as you drive off the island.
Yeah. Understandable. Steve, do you have anything else?
No, that's it for now.
Okay. I will say I thank you for the pictures. They come in much better, gives me a better understanding of what this is going to look like. But speaking of the triangles on the end, there seems to be some inconsistency as to what the ZBA decision says. Kristen, could you speak to this?
Sure. I just, following our last meeting, when some questions have been raised about the height, I just thought it was important to look back at the Zoning Board of Appeals special permit decision related to the pavilion and some of the other, changes to adding the storage shed and such on the site. So I just reviewed that related to this application, and I think there are some inconsistencies. I had a brief conversation with the chair of the zoning board, and I think there are the gables, to go on Steve Manchin's comment, whether the triangles are enclosed or open was certainly discussed, from what I understand from others. I did not attend the ZBA's conversations. This goes back to January 24. Is that correct, Steve? I think.
I think it was just actually I watched the meeting on YouTube. It was December 21st. I know that because that's my birthday. So
Okay.
so it's 12. It was 12/21/24.
Well, the permit decision was February 2024, so it must have been December 23, and then January
Or 23, yeah.
February 24. So
yeah.
Anyway, some questions about the appendix of the recorded ZBA decision shows the triangles open. My understanding is there was discussion by the applicant at the time and with the board about enclosing the triangle sides, but it was not reflected in the recorded decision. In addition, a couple other things related to the floor area ratio and lot coverage, and the approved lighting. So there were a few things that my understanding is the ZBA at the time did not know that this project was going to be required to have a new site plan review with the planning board. So they did condition their special permit decision addressing some of the same issues or some of the same considerations that the planning board is looking at right now. So Steve and I had a short conversation about this, but my recommendation to the applicant is to, in order to be assured that the recorded decision by the ZBA accurately reflects what the applicant is wanting to do now, would be important to discuss with the ZBA whether there should be a modification to the zoning board's special permit decision. The ZBA does have a meeting coming up later this month. So it could be something that could get on the agenda for that meeting, and then the applicant would need to come back to this board to finish. So we would need to keep the public hearing open while that ZBA discussion happens.
Okay, and we're also gonna keep the public hearing open while we go through the
Woody,
decision. So,
Woody, may I
Yeah.
add something
yes,
else?
Steve.
I think at the ZBA, or maybe it was the building inspector, there was some discussion about signs and how, like on the merchandise shack, you could say Sunset and have a mural, but if it said Sunset Club, that would constitute a sign for a Sunset Club. And that gets me to thinking about how with the gables as shown, we could eventually see, I'll call it decorations there. It's not just, plain slats, which is what it looks like in the drawing. And that visual impact is something that, as a person who drives on and off the island all the time, gets to be a little bit concerned about. Likewise, in terms of visual impact, I noticed that the existing sign that announces the Sunset Club, it's been there for a while. There's now some flagging going on that sign as well. And again, more of a visual impact. And I get to be a little bit concerned about enough is enough with stuff being flown, or I'll use the word advertised in a general sense, on either the pavilion or perhaps even now on the big sign that says Sunset Club. And I wonder if you have any comments on that, Steve Sawyer.
Yeah, I'm sure Vincent would, I understand your concern. You kind of want the rustic nature of the, it's designed to be rustic and appealing. And yeah, putting a banner sign across would not be, that's not very appealing. I understand your concern, Stephen. And so I would imagine that Vincent would be fully okay with conditions, as part of the conditions of this approval, that no signage whatsoever, banners, anything, be placed on that pavilion gable end of the roof.
Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know whether it's under the purview of the planning board or it's just the building inspector or whatever, but having the Sunset Club existing sign festooned with many, many flags gives me some pause as well. And perhaps you can relay that to Vincent as well.
We can do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. And also, I did read the Kristen had sent the relating to the zoning board decision. So I did see that they said that the pavilion is to remain open on all sides. And then I looked, okay, what's the definition of that triangular piece? And it's actually the definition of that triangular piece is it's the gable end of a roof. So it's technically a roof, but we have no, as Kristen suggested, Vincent has no issue going back to get clarification from the planning board. From the zoning board, that the intent was to enclose this, but mostly in the afternoon would be to so the sun doesn't shine under, or wind-driven rain to drive under it. And I did see in that meeting it was discussed at length regarding that enclosed corner. So I would think that just a short visit with the ZBA to clarify that would be great. And I did note that they did spend a lot of time. Originally, Vince had the building turned 90 degrees with the shed, with the gable up, opposite direction, and the ZBA requested them to turn it 90 to reduce the impact of the view coming on and off the island. So there was a lot of thought put into it on the ZBA's end regarding the structure and its location and orientation. But we have no issue to jump onto that August meeting and then come back in September.
Okay. Okay, thank you, and I appreciate that, Steve. If you have been so willing to do that, that would just add some clarification to it all. And we can move on, get it right, move on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Woody, if I may, it's a good thing I found my notes. I had one other question to Steve.
Okay, go right ahead. Yep.
Currently where the pavilion sits, that's where you had the bocce courts and I'll say recreational activities. It wasn't a place for seating. And certainly I understand that when there's a storm or whatever, you'd want to be able to get the picnic tables underneath the pavilion. And I'm wondering whether there's anything you need to present or address about total capacity at the place. Because I think if my understanding is that if you had extra seating in the outdoors, that could roll into considerations of the number of parking spots that you would need.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether the plans call for some procedure to stabilize the number of seats and not have an increase with the pavilion structure being available.
Yeah, I know there was no intention of increasing the seating at the restaurant. I don't know. I think Jeff might be on the call to as far as operations. My understanding was at times there won't be tables under there if there's need, during maybe a roasting hot day, they would move the tables under there to people, or if impending rainstorms, they'd move the tables under there to protect the customers and leave the other area open. So my understanding, and we can confirm that in the September meeting for sure, unless Jeff can weigh in, that there is no intention to change the seating or table capacity at the restaurant.
Okay, thank you again. I think
Yeah.
I'm done. At
Okay.
least according to my notes, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Steve. All right, right now I'd like to move on to public comment. Is there any raised hands or anyone from the public wish to speak? Please raise your hand. Or if you have trouble with the raise hand function, please speak up.
I don't see any members of the public on anymore. What do you think? We're good?
Okay. All right, and if that changes, just call or someone speak up if you'd like to make a public comment.
Oh.
There's Jeff.
Sorry, Jeff.
Is this
You're
Jeff
invited.
from Sunset Club?
Correct, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff. I can't see it, so.
Jeff, you're muted.
Sometimes it's tricky when you have I've never tried to unmute from a phone if he's on phone.
I believe unmute is *9. I might be wrong. It's either *6 or *9. I should know. I've read that preamble too many times. But it's right here. So
Woody, I don't know why you should record that just to hit a button.
yeah, I wish I could put myself on autopilot, right?
Well,
Yep, mute button is *6.
starts.
And I don't see Steve.
Oh,
So
he's actually Jeff's trying to enter through. Oh, there we go. He's trying to go through.
all right.
Huh. There we go.
Sorry, I was having a little technical difficulty there.
Nope, that's what I do.
I just
Go ahead.
wanted to chime in about the seating. It was my understanding, it's been mentioned several times that there's no additional seating being added due to the pavilion. It would just be rearranging existing seating underneath the pavilion.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Steve, you heard that obviously, so thank you.
Yes.
All right, would the board like to review the criteria for a site plan review decision? Is that something that we want to do tonight? Start the process?
Sure,
See some
sure, Woody.
moments, so let's go ahead. Say that again?
Sure, Woody.
All right, let's go ahead. Kristen, do you have that? You can put that up?
Yes. Steve, maybe I'll bump you, but you can.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry
unmute
about that.
if you
Let me
want.
stop share. Yep, sorry.
That's okay.
Here we go.
See if this. You see that?
Yes.
Oh, why is
All right.
it so tiny on mine? Okay, so, so I guess, just Woody, I'll just kind of read through each of the decision criteria here.
Yep.
Is that big enough,
Please.
everybody?
Yep.
Okay. The planning board shall approve an application for site plan review if it finds that the applicant has submitted sufficient information from which it can determine that the proposed project will minimize volume of cut and fill, number of removed trees, 6-inch caliper or larger, area of wetland vegetation displaced, soil erosion, the threat of air and water pollution, and traffic congestion. Do you want me to like interpret as we go through these, or I mean, none of these
Yeah.
apply because there's no change to the conditions on the ground at the site. And we've just discussed, you know, that the intention is not to increase the number of patrons at the restaurant. So there's no concern related to change in traffic flow or anything else.
Yep.
Letter B, avoid removal of existing stone walls, not applicable. Provide adequate stormwater management or other utilities consistent with the requirements of Newbury's stormwater bylaw and the planning board's submission rules and regulations. This board has had peer review by the town's peer review engineer related to stormwater. We've had back and forth about that, and you know, we're at a point where our peer review is recommended. This is fine. The plan addresses the stormwater bylaw.
Yep.
Let's see, letter D, maximize safety for pedestrians and vehicles on the site and entering onto and egressing from it. I think consistent with what I just mentioned, there are no changes, so that's all set. Adequate access to structures for fire and emergency service equipment. I don't think there are any concerns about that. I mean, I certainly could make sure, check in with the fire chief related to anything related to an open-sided pavilion. I can't imagine that there's concern, but I'm not sure I've actually had any direct communication. Do you know, Steve, if that's ever come up?
It has not come up, and well, I guess the fire they received the I'm sure they received the application as part of the process and reviewed it.
Yeah. Minimize obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations. I think that's part of what we're discussing.
Yep.
Minimize visual intrusion, controlling the visibility of parking, storage, other outdoor service areas viewed from public ways or premises. Minimize intrusion of glare from headlights and site lighting on surrounding properties. We haven't talked a lot about lighting, but I think the applicant has certainly presented that the, you know, the lighting specs as part of the application and downward facing, and those can all be reviewed again by planning board members. Minimize unreasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity as viewed from public ways and places. Certainly the renderings have assisted the board in reviewing this item. Prevent contamination of groundwater from any source. Enhance the appearance of the property to the greatest degree possible by means of landscaping and other site amenities. Minimize impacts of the use on adjacent properties through regulation of hours of operation, deliveries, noise, rubbish removal, and on-site storage. And then ensure compliance with the provisions of Newbury's zoning bylaw, including parking and signs. To Steve Manchin's questions, that will be, you know, the building inspector is the enforcement officer for the sign bylaw. So we will assure that he's comfortable with the proposal. And I think that's it. Those are this is the section about decision criteria that the permit decision would address.
Okay.
I don't know
Very
if
good.
any board members have any comments or questions related to any of these, but I think as we move forward, we'll draft the decision and we'll certainly review the language in the decision together.
Very good. And board members, does anyone have any questions at this time about this? Hearing none. Okay. Anything else on that, Krista?
Nope.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you for going through that.
Yep.
So at this time, if no one else has anything to say, I would entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to September 3rd, not December, September 3rd.
So moved.
And a second, please. Thank you, Scott.
Second.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure who that was.
Larry.
Steve?
That was me, Woody.
Oh, thank you, Larry. All right. Roll call vote. Peter?
Yes, sir.
Larry?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Goya, and,
Yep.
We'll see you on the 3rd and
Thank you,
Yep.
Steve.
keep
Thank you.
working to button this up.
Yep.
Thank
All right.
Steve.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Yep,
Have a good
you
night.
too.
Yep.
All right, that ends our public hearings for this evening. That brings us to old business. First thing on for old business, stowaway storage. DBA Newbury Self Storage, 131 Newburyport Turnpike. My understanding, Kristen, is that the applicant's not here. So would you like to describe their request for them?
Sure. Yeah, Bill DiFrancesco sent his apologies, was unable to attend tonight, but it's fine. He's submitted, and his engineer, Millennium, has submitted the engineer's certification letter and final as-built plan for their, it was actually their, I think, third phase of storage units at the back of the property to close out. They've been in place for a while, but there were some conditions of the property boundary between the storage unit and 84 Boston Road. So that's all been cleared up, and Bill is ready to request that the site plan be closed out with the planning board. So we have those plans. I have transmitted them to the town's peer review for the engineering review. And then I think if the planning board's interested in a site visit, that would probably be the next thing to schedule. And then once we get the site visit done and get a comment letter, review letter from our peer review, they come back onto the agenda.
Okay, so I wouldn't mind going on a site walk. Anyone else? Site walk, okay. And we can coordinate site walk dates and times through email, Kristen? Is that
Yeah.
something you can do?
Yes.
All right. So we'll do that, and we'll go on a site walk and we'll continue this at a later date. Whenever all the information's ready from peer review and after our site walk. So moving on. We have 68 Green Street, subdivision, Farmview Lane. Newbury, Mass. Request to release the escrow account funds for Mike DeSantos. Is Mike here?
He's not here. This is
Okay.
sort of a final administrative piece of closing it out. You'll recall the board approved their as-built and closeout already, which
Yep.
required the peer review. So the last thing to finish the administrative component of this is for the board to return a little bit of remaining funds that are in the escrow account sitting in the bank. Those get returned to the applicant. So this is just to request that approval by the planning board.
Okay, so if there's no questions from the board, I'd entertain a motion to return the remaining funds in the escrow account.
So moved.
Mike. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Pete. Roll call vote, Pete,
Absolutely.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So that's settled. And thank you, Kristen, for the information. All right, moving on. We have wonderful planning board meeting minutes from July 16th. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
I will defer. I was so busy doing 34 Central that my head was not into minutes, so I apologize. I did not get a chance to review.
Okay. Everybody else get a chance to review them? Anyone have any edits or comments? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the July 16th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Steve. Roll call vote. Pete's not voting. Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So meeting minutes are approved. And that leads us to the last thing on the agenda. Planners report.
Just keep it brief. Thank you all. Complicated projects. I really appreciate everyone's work and time reviewing everything. Looking ahead a little bit, the next planning board meeting is 2 weeks from today. Again, want to just say kudos to the planning board who, instead of going down to one meeting a month like some other boards, has actually done 3 meetings this month, and I really just do appreciate all of your time. The next meeting will have, my anticipation is, besides the continuance of 100 High Street, High Road, as we continued that hearing at the last meeting, so that will be coming back. There is some back and forth going with the peer review engineer and the applicant's engineer for that subdivision, 2-lot subdivision project. So we'll have more materials, I anticipate, in advance of August 20th. We're also just still trying to get through these closeouts of some projects that have been lingering. So I hope there will be a couple other projects on the 20th. Let me just look. Let's see, we're still working on Gadsden Lane. We're still working on 84 Boston and Whiffletree site plan review. Damon Jesperson has already submitted a letter and is getting the as-built plan from his engineer to close that out. So hopefully that'll be on the next meeting, but otherwise I don't see anything, any longer agenda items other than the 100 High Road public hearing. And that's probably a good update for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
If anyone has anything else to say, speak up now. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I don't know, Kristen. There's other boards in town not doing the 3 a month like the planning board? Like the conservation commission?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did 1 a month.
One a month in July and
July
August.
and August, yeah.
All
Last
right.
time,
Well, yeoman work, really love being on this board because, you know, we want to work. So I'm not saying the other boards don't, but, we get it done. So thank you.
well said,
Agreed.
Scott.
Would you like a motion to adjourn, sir?
Yes, I'm ready.
There you have it.
All right, in a second.
Second.
Seconded?
All right. Roll call vote, Peter, Larry,
ma'am.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Everyone have a good night and thank
Yes,
you for your
yes.
time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for your
Good
time.
night. Good night,
Good
Christine.
night.
Good night.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.